Here we are live on Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, and of course, if you want to get the full version, you have to subscribe to our Rumble channel or go on X. Now there's Leo Lions Zagami. Yes, finally with my name, so it's well recognizable. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. The title of today, G7, the Luciferian Court of Pope Francis. Can you believe it? Italy held this G7 meeting. We will be talking about it, and we will be talking about a lot more because there is we are filled with news coming from all over the place. So here we go. Leo and Christy Zagami, the Leo Zagami Show. It's extremely hot here in the desert, so we're doing the heated dance. Hot dance? How are we gonna call it? I don't want to dance too much because it's so hot. Ah!
I'm not hot.
You're hot.
I'm not.
You're a hot babe. Okay, so let's thank our sponsors, those who make this show possible, and that's you.
Okay, Daniel Estes, and Bruce Kodish, and Margarizada Minta, and Kayvon Fathi. Thank you very much for your donations, and thank you everybody for buying the book this week.
Yes, the main book of the week, of course, is my latest production, Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 10, Islamic Freemasonry and the Secret Societies Behind Eternal Conflict in the Middle East. A great book that you should definitely have in your collection, that brings you information that no other author has touched upon in the same way, and new revelations with evidence, documents, photos, and the personal experiences. So here we go with the Leo Zagami Show. Okay, so they hold this meeting in Italy, the most unpopular leaders of all time gathered together to once again assert their support also for Volodymyr Zelensky, and today Kamala Harris and not Joe Biden arrived in Switzerland to reiterate once again this support, which is always given in the form of money. Another $1.5 billion for Volodymyr Zelensky. How much money do we need to give to this guy?
I can't even watch it.
I mean, it's just insane what is happening with this guy. It's just never-ending money. It's like he's a vampire of money. I mean, you give him money and he wants more money. You give him money, he wants more.
Because it all goes up his nose. That's why.
No, he goes to purchase villas, yachts, land. Of course, he's making himself very, very rich. So at this point, let's inaugurate the news. The news. We have so much stuff that we need to comment on. Let me prepare everything. How was your week, Christy?
It was full of my cookbook. And cooking. Cooking also. Okay. You had a lot of good stuff to eat this week.
Yeah, so because Christy
I'm working on it, guys. But I have like a list this long with everything I need to cook because I'm taking the pictures for it. So it's a lot of work, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Working on it.
And we had also this week Trump's birthday party, because it was his birthday. It was his birthday, and he was given a birthday cookie in Detroit during his campaign. The Democrats are very scared about Trump's growing support amongst African Americans. They say that's not possible, but in the meantime, it's becoming a reality. And check out what happened in Detroit. The music. Christy always enjoys Trump's music selection. Here's the birthday cookie. Huh? Isn't it funny? The big birthday cookie for President Donald J. Trump. He is 78 and Joe Biden is 81. There is, of course, 3 years difference, but also Joe Biden is demonstrating some really big problems already at 81. We can't really imagine him arriving to a second presidency. We can't even imagine him ending this presidency without falling on the ground, falling on his face. Trump, instead, as usual, as you can see, is very energetic and is demonstrating to be very successful in gathering support from the African American community. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. That was, of course, our president, President Donald J. Trump, in Detroit, and running for a presidency that is going to be, of course, not an easy job, as the Democrats are creating so many problems already, and they are disseminating future problems. Like what happened at the G7 in Italy when Zelensky and Joe Biden sealed this 10-year agreement. So Trump will have to find a way to break this 10-year agreement.
And now what do we have to do?
It's really insane what happened in Italy. Of course, people are focused mostly on Biden wandering off at one point, and the Democrats threatened to censor through their algorithms this video because they said it was taken out of context. Now, here is the full video, so it's not taken out of context, and it actually makes Joe Biden look even worse than ever. So the longer clip in context is even more horrifying. Let's check it out. Now, here you can see that Ursula von der Leyen immediately kind of says, where is this guy going? And she asked Macron, who then, of course, is very concerned. So Meloni, it's moving now towards Joe Biden because he needs to be brought back in line with the other world leaders. Somebody said, what does Mr. Zagami think of Prime Minister Meloni? I said from the very first day she was elected that she is a tool of the system. She is a fake conservative. She's supporting the war in Ukraine. She is somebody who gets along very well with Joe Biden. And if you are a real conservative, it's literally impossible to get along with Joe Biden. Yeah. So I said this even before she was elected, actually on InfoWars a long time ago. This week, by the way, we will be broadcasting still on Video, and we will be broadcasting on Band Video because the liquidation of Alex Jones' assets didn't include his own InfoWars for the moment, and so Band Video stays alive and kicking. So hello to all the people who are following us on Band Video, and we have, of course, a lot to discuss this week in relation to the Luciferian court. The Luciferian court, what is a Luciferian court? I mean, people think that the Illuminati are the top of the pyramid, but in reality, they are controlled by the Jesuits and the Sabbatean Frankists, and mainly by the Jesuits. So the Sabbatean Frankists are more like the sponsors, the economic side of things, like the Rothschilds and so on. But when it comes to this whole concept that the Illuminati at the top of the pyramid, well, it's erroneous. The Illuminati are part of a Luciferian court under a Jesuit supervision, and this time it was very indicative that this was the first G7 ever where a pope arrived and hold bilateral meetings, hold speeches on artificial intelligence. Yes, there was this unusual element this time with Joe Biden.
And a pope's never done that before.
And the pope has never done that before. So finally, people might understand the importance of the Jesuits in supervising the Illuminati. We are here, of course, broadcasting from Palm Springs, California, 12 minutes past the hour, wherever you are around the world. There was, of course, a moment that was pretty far out, the moment in which Joe Biden was sniffing the Pope. I think that was even worse moment than him wandering off.
Do ba 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 do boo do a boo ba do ba do boo boo ba do a do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do 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 a do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do ba do ba do a do 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 a do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do 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 ba do. Yeah.
They're really showing themselves.
Well, I mean, we saw
Biden's all up in his personal space and he can't even move.
Yeah, and we saw for a long time Biden sniffing children. Now he's sniffing something else. He's sniffing the Pope. Maybe because he's white, it reminds him of a line of cocaine. I don't know. The Pope is, of course, dressed in white. So maybe that's familiar to him. It's definitely familiar to his son. Anyway, this were like the Babylon Bee actually said. This was a meeting between a fake Catholic president and a fake Catholic Pope. I know that the Babylon Bee likes to be funny, but they were actually spot on with this clown show and with this fake Catholic president who was pushing abortion, and this group of Illuminati puppets that included, of course, Justin Trudeau, but there was also Recep Erdogan from Turkey. There were many important elements of this New World disorder. And the debate, of course, was also in support of Volodymyr Zelensky, this hideous man from Ukraine that is keeping on his show. He used to be a comedian. He's no longer a comedian. I don't know what he is nowadays. He is something that I don't know. I mean, the guy it's definitely stealing more money than anybody else in the history of mankind. So he
You
deserves
don't have it to steal.
he deserves an award.
It all comes from the taxpayers.
Yeah, and it comes from the taxpayers. It goes through a system that we showed also now when I showed that military industrial complex, and then this money goes in and out of Washington, feeding the swamp creatures. Now, I hope that when Trump comes in, he immediately rectifies the situation, because what has been done by the Speaker of the House approving the money thing is just outrageous. But this is this is Biden, and this is his administration that is, of course, trying to continue this war to destabilize Russia. Russia is very difficult to destabilize Russia, because they have China, they have many other allies around the world, and this is what Vladimir Putin said in response to the peace conference that they're holding in Switzerland without Russia. I mean, how can you hold a peace conference without the two parts that are involved in the conflict? This is the first time in history that they do a peace conference without it's not a peace conference anymore. It's rather a strategy to continue this war. And in fact, Putin offered Ukraine a peace proposal, and NATO immediately refused it before Zelensky even replied, of course, refusing it, but NATO, why is NATO refusing on behalf of Zelensky before Zelensky even opens his mouth? These two countries should be dealing with each other, and this is not in theory a war between NATO and Russia. But let's see what was Putin's proposal.
We're making another real peaceful proposal, a proposal of peace. If they refuse once again in Kiev, it is their business. It is their choice to continue this bloodshed. The reality on the ground will keep shifting, and not in favor of the Kiev regime. And the conditions for the talks will change as well. Let me emphasize that the gist of our proposal is not just a ceasefire or a temporary truce, as the West wants it. They want to rearm the Kiev regime. This is not about transforming this into a frozen conflict. We want to put an end to this conflict. Once again, I would like to say that as soon as Kiev agrees to this turn of events as we propose it today, as soon as they agree to withdraw the troops from the Zaporozhye and Kherson regions and the People's Republic, we are ready to launch these talks without any delay.
So he's ready to launch these talks, and what he wants is basically the Donbass region and Crimea, and then leave the rest to Volodymyr Zelensky, but with the assurance that Zelensky doesn't join NATO, something that it's already impossible, because Zelensky has been talking about joining NATO since the beginning of this conflict, and NATO itself has kind of validated this proposal many times with the words of Stoltenberg, the Secretary General. So we are in a situation, of course, of possible direct confrontation, imminent confrontation between Russia and NATO. And this is also demonstrated by the fact that for the first time since 1972, something big is happening here, guys, because they will be now putting on call all men here in the United States from the age of 18 to 26.
When do they start this?
This is a new thing that is coming in, and of course it follows in line with what has happened already. We have announced in Great Britain, where 18-year-olds are already being called, and many other countries in Europe that have started this whole thing of
it's a draft?
Draft, yes. The draft is, military draft coming. Let's see the article in question that I've found that discusses the whole thing to give an idea of how close we are to the point of no return, because that's another thing that Putin said during this G7 meeting. He said, of course, from Russia, as in response to what they were doing, we are close to a point of no return.
That's not very good.
Military draft coming. House passes measure to automatically register men for selective service. The House of Representatives on Friday, so yesterday, approved this version of the annual defense policy bill, effectively clearing the $883.7 billion National Defense Authorization Act to move forward in a 217/199 vote, which largely fell along party lines. Only 3 Republicans opposed it. So, guys, this is a bipartisan effort which demonstrates how the military-industrial complex controls the whole of Washington, D.C. Of course, they blackmail them. They make them do things they shouldn't do. They film them. We saw what goes on Capitol Hill in some of the rooms. We even saw a video with an homosexual having a full-on, how do you say,
I don't know,
sexual encounter that was filmed, and that nobody discusses it any longer. But that is one of the many things that happens in Capitol Hill, where apparently, like George Santos, you remember George Santos? Yeah. He made some interesting revelations about what goes on there. So they're all blackmailable, basically. The interesting aspects of the bill for fiscal year 2025 is an amendment to the NDAA, which automatically registers all draft age male U.S. residents with the selective service system. So that means that all able-bodied males in the country, age 18 to 26, could potentially be drafted in a scenario of a future war declaration by Congress. The selection will be based on information from federal databases.
Oh, that's so fucked up.
While there have been selective service programs in effect for decades, it has long previously only been voluntarily. But this new amendment will make registration automatic. And I repeat, this whole thing didn't happen since 1972. So 1972 was Vietnam. So that
everybody went. I mean, all the draft dodgers went up to Canada. I guess they're not going to go to Canada now because probably they're going to draft them too.
Well, of course. So Trudeau would definitely send them.
And then who wants to go there anyway? You know, they don't have any news anymore up there. I mean, they don't get any. Well, my friend can't see the news. I don't know. I'm sure other people can see the news, but my friend can't see the news.
I know. Fortunately, I'm giving an interview next week on Thursday to Winnipeg Alternative Media, so let's see what happens. But this is a very dangerous situation. And on this side of the world, the Secretary of Defense, the guy with the prostate, the problems, who is in and out of hospital, well, he had the courage to say that Putin is in no position to give conditions. When Putin is winning on the ground, this guy instead says that Putin is in no position to do what he's doing. I think that is completely insane. I mean, we're talking about a secretary who of defense who is completely woke and ridiculous, but check out what he's saying here. He's not being realistic by saying that Putin is not in a position where Putin is winning. Putin is winning this war on the ground.
Sovereign Ukrainian territory. He is not in any position to dictate to Ukraine what they must do to bring about a peace. I think, that's exactly the kind of behavior that we don't want to see. We don't want to see a leader of one country wake up one day and decide that he wants to erase borders and annex the territory of his neighbor. That's not the world that any of us want to live in, and so I think he is not in my view, not in a position to dictate to Ukraine what it must do to pursue peace. Putin can end this war today. He started this war with no provocation. He's lost, he's had some, hundreds of thousands of troops wounded and killed in this unjust and unprovoked invasion. He could end this today if he chose to do that. And we call upon him to do that and to leave Ukrainian sovereign territory.
And this was courtesy of the New York Post with the Secretary of Defense giving this statement, which is absolutely not realistic. So here we are in front really of a Luciferian court of Jesuit agents that met all together to decide the future of the people who soon will be at war, will be cold, will be drafted, our children. This is insane, but it's, like I said, not only happening here in America, it's already been happening in Europe, where they're starting States. And at the same time, we have a lot of tension in France. Why? Because we have Emmanuel Macron, who has been forced after the European elections to call for an election himself. However, this is going to backfire big time for him. It's a gamble that he will definitely lose because the polls are showing he's very unpopular. George Soros today has tried to sponsor these left-wingers going around already opposing the takeover of the right wing. You have to understand that the elections will be taking place at the beginning of July, and we'll see probably Marine Le Pen with her party winning, and she has already arranged an alliance with the conservatives of the Republican French party. So at that point, Macron, who has already said he will not resign after the elections, even if he will probably lose the elections, because as a president, he can stay there in power, but at the same time, we will see his power diminished by the fact that the parliament will not be in his hands anymore. He will not have control anymore. He will be in a very difficult position, and in a very difficult position where most of the statesmen, of the politicians that were there at this joke of a G7. It was, like the Gateway Pundit defined them, a gang of losers, displaying the decadence of this globalist world order. And I completely agree with this description. The Group of Seven was created as an intergovernmental political and economic forum formed by the great Western powers post-World War II. It consists of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. But today, we have also, of course, the European Union as a non-enumerated member, but present with Ursula von der Leyen. Today, the growing and possibly in the next few years, the number one economic power is not amongst them. That's China. Then you have Russia. Then you have all the countries that are allied with the BRICS, which is supposed to be an alternative to, is an alternative that is being established, that is also bringing in important countries like Saudi Arabia. And suddenly we find countries that are announcing they will be ditching the dollar. So all this decadence, it's of course in front of our eyes, and it's created by the enemies of America, which are both foreign and domestic. The domestic ones are the ones that get, we can say, adomesticated when they get to Washington, D.C., and they get corrupt by the military-industrial complex and the Democrats that are controlling all this mess. On behalf of who? Who is controlling the Democrats if not China? China controls Joe Biden. And actually, there was a partial admission given during the G7 by Joe Biden that he is no longer in control, but it's actually China that is really in control. And I will explain why in a second. He seemingly, a lot of Americans thought this was funny when Joe Biden suddenly went on one of his weird rants and started to say that he had to build a train line in Africa from there. But you will see that this whole thing brings us straight back to China. So I want to, of course, show you this moment of the G7, which is very.
It would be a great problem with the protocol. Mr. President.
Yeah. It was very gracious to do that. I got criticized at home for asking when the federal government invests in something that discourage or encourage private sector to invest. 96% of people ask that it encourages investment, not discourages investment. It attracts investment. That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry, I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way, BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home. We're developing the first railway line to extend from Angola to the DRC, Zambia, to the Indian Ocean. They're really showing themselves to do really well.
Now, if it's very easy, guys. You just need to go on the Wikipedia of Angola, and it shows you that that project is actually being set up by China. So how did Joe Biden even conceive this kind of thing? I repeat, Angola is on this side of Africa, on the western side. The Indian Ocean is on the eastern side, and he's talking about a train line that he says he collaborated in establishing, when in reality it's being established by China. So this is maybe something that he kind of like, I mean, Angola is an important country, but it's also very communistic. And I can show you their flag just to give you an idea of how communistic they are, because I mean, China is taking over all the communist countries of Africa. I don't think Joe Biden understands what kind of idiocy he has said, and of course most people will ignore even where Angola is, or the plan by China to construct this railway. Angola, let's see if I can find a trace of it. Angola Railway, Indian Ocean, let's see, China, probably we find, that's it. We found it. I want to show you, because it means that Joe Biden is not only sick in the head, but it's kind of like disturbing here. You see, it's financed by China. So let's go back to Joe Biden a second, because this is some man.
Oh man,
I would like to make you listen again what he said here.
Encourage private sector to invest. 96% of people ask that it encourages investment, not discourages investment. It attracts investment. That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry, I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way, BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home. We're developing the first railway line to extend from Angola, the DRC, Zambia, to the Indian Ocean.
I repeat, he's not developing anything. It's China that is developing it. So we would like to know why no journalist in the world has picked up on this error, which reveals who is really behind Joe Biden, which is communist China. And of course, then we have BlackRock and we have George Soros, but that's another thing. But I mean, weird. And no journalist talks about it like it's normal. I really have some problems here in understanding where his project is he doing a parallel railway? Is he building another railway in competition with China? Come on, in the middle of the jungle of Africa. It's a little bit like those areas that we see when there is those TV shows like Naked and Afraid in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly you have a railway. And this railway is built by Joe Biden in his head. Okay, welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. If you want to help us and sponsor us, you can do it through GoFundMe. I will put here the GoFundMe details on the screen. We have also a Cash App handle that you can find at leozagami.com, where you can also find, of course, also my latest articles. A lot of these articles are based, of course, on my latest book, Volume 10 of My Confessions, which is a very important book, which also talks about one point about China and how China has played a very important role in bringing back together countries like Wahhabi Saudi Arabia and Shiite Iran that were completely, they were never, ever even imagining a dialogue between these countries, because Great Britain had created Wahhabi Saudi Arabia to be in competition, of course, with what Iran represented, especially after 1979, but even a long time before, because this whole instability that we have in the Middle East and what is happening now has roots that go back hundreds of years and involve many secret societies and, of course, also Islamic Freemasonry. And there has been no author yet that has been able of producing a book to put some clarity and to discuss this subject. So please purchase Volume 10. Is a way of supporting our show, and it's a way of making you aware of things that you will not find anywhere else. And I put also here on the screen our GoFundMe address. Put it here. And welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy. Remember, in 7 minutes, exactly in 7 minutes, we will interrupt our broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube, and we will be for part 2 only on X and Rumble. And we do this so in part 2 of our broadcast, we can be more open about certain subjects. Mm-hmm. And today we have, let's say, some subjects which are particularly delicate, that the algorithm on Facebook or YouTube will be probably immediately intervening. So if you want to get part 2 of this show in 6 minutes from now, please go on Rumble or Facebook. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Did I say it clearly?
Yeah.
Did I make it clear?
You made it clear.
Okay. Somebody says, does Mr. Zagami consider Arab childish? I'm sorry, you need to read my book before you're going to open your mouth and say something like this. I mean, it's much more complex. I think just considering the Arab childish. I might consider them corrupt. That's another thing. They might have been manipulated for a very long time. And that's why the creation of the Salafi movement and of course the Wahhabis, which are part also of the Salafi movement, but the most rich, the sponsors of the Salafi jihadists. And
here's all your confusion, that people might have about what's going on. It makes everything very clear, and
yes,
and you understand a lot when you read it.
absolutely.
I really understand now. So
That's that's good that you understand, Christy. That's good. Somebody told me, why don't I give the Twitter handle to make it more easy for people who want to pass on maybe in a few minutes. Well, let me put it here in the chat. The Twitter handle, it's important, I know, for those people who maybe want to join us for part 2 of my show. I think that already many people have gone on X, have joined us on X, but there is still about 50 people that are lurking on Facebook and YouTube and need to immediately move on to X and Rumble if they want to enjoy part 2 of our show, where we will be discussing things, like I said, a little bit delicate. And so
we were gone off of Facebook for probably a month and a half.
2 months.
2 months. And we lost like a lot of, I don't see those people anymore. It's either they don't like, our view on things now that, I don't know, but I don't see the same people anymore.
Well, we lost them. Well, if you care, you need to come.
I always post it on my Facebook. I don't know.
You need to join us. You need to join us.
I know that people do not get the YouTube links because I'm subscribed and I never get the YouTube.
X. If you want to join us in a few minutes on X, you see it now on the screen. It's on the screen now for you. So it makes it easy for people, I guess, to see it on the screen. If you don't get it now, you don't get it ever. If you're not interested, that's another thing. Okay. So this makes it easy for us to finally not be censored. And to maybe be able to build up also these channels again on YouTube, because I had 17. We had 17 channels removed since the beginning of they actually
in the pandemic. We had a lot removed.
Yes, but also it was a month before the elections that this whole censorship really. And as we are approaching a new election, we know that they will start censoring a lot. So.
You can't do it as much as they did before, though, because a lot of people are on to them.
But they continue. Listen, if I show people the same things that I will show in part 2, we will be removed after 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So that it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of this censorship. So it was pretty ridiculous to see Pope Francis at the G7 talking about algorithms, talking about artificial intelligence, when he and his Jesuits are the reason why we have this growing censorship from Silicon Valley. The guy is an hypocrite. The guy is absolute hypocrite. Of course, he was talking about artificial intelligence controlled drones and weapons that can kill people. And that I agree. It's a hideous thing. The fact that artificial intelligence can decide the death of a person in automatic with a drone and come and kill you, it's of course something that is outrageous. But Pope Francis hasn't talked about the censorship, of course. Censorship at times has helped his friends, especially the friends from the big pharmaceutical companies. I don't want to say more because don't do it. Okay, I see you for part 2 after, of course, Medieval. Christy likes that. This is the moment, a little bit of dancing around with Medieval, the track by our fantastic graphic designer, the images by Albert from Telepandemia. Thank you, Albert. And here we go with Medieval, and I see you for part 2 on X and Rumble only.
In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology,